If you thought the hip-hop world was done dealing with the heartbreaking, stomach-churning aftermath of late 2022, open up your eyes and take a look at the absolute financial nuclear reactor meltdown happening behind closed court doors right now. We are talking about the late, great Takeoff, the quietest, coolest, most undeniably talented glue of the record-shattering Migos whose untimely, horrifying departure left behind an eye-watering $30 million fortune and a non-stop royalty machine that prints money every single time someone hits play on a playlist. But because he was only 28 years old, living his absolute best life, and naturally didn't expect to have his life stolen away outside a Houston bowling alley, he died without leaving behind a valid written will, a legal spouse, or any children. And that exact legal vacuum transformed his generational wealth into an all-out, bloodthirsty, multi-state family war zone, where everyone is throwing hands over every single dime, dollar, and master recording. Stop right there. Do not scroll down, do not swipe away, and do not pretend you aren't completely addicted to this real-life legal soap opera unfolding in real time. Hit that subscribe button right this second because we are delivering the rawest, dirtiest, most unfiltered hip-hop breakdowns before the lawyers slam the court records shut. Drop a comment down below immediately telling me if you think an absent father should ever get a single cent of a deceased son's estate, and smash that like button and share this video with everyone in your group chat, because if you don't, I will personally manifest your long-lost deadbeat uncle showing up to claim half of your next paycheck. Now let's take a deep breath, step back, and survey the absolute legal biohazard that is currently consuming two separate state court systems. To truly comprehend how we ended up in a scenario where tens of millions of dollars are hanging in the balance while lawyers line their pockets, you have to look at the law of the land. When Kenneth Ball passed away in November 2022, he didn't just leave behind millions of devastated fans, Quavo, and Offset. He left behind a massive cash stack, luxury vehicles, high-end real estate, rights to iconic hip-hop hits, and a high-stakes civil lawsuit against the Houston bowling alley venue where the tragedy went down. Under standard Georgia probate law, if an individual dies intestate, which is just fancy legalese for dying without a written will or trust, their entire world of assets automatically passes down to their immediate next of kin. Since Takeoff wasn't married and had no kids, the law defaults directly to his biological parents in a clean, theoretically simple 50-50 split. And that exact 50-50 default rule is precisely where the emotional and financial atomic bomb exploded inside the family tree. The moment the legal machinery started grinding, Takeoff's devoted mother, Titania Davenport, immediately filed legal paperwork to lock down the entire estate, appoint herself as the sole administrator, and completely banish his biological father, Kenneth Ball, from touching a single cent. Her court filings weren't just standard legal documents, they were emotional, scorched-earth affidavits that exposed the brutal reality of how Kiersnick was actually brought up. Titania laid it out straight for the judge without a shred of sugarcoating. She was a struggling single mother who worked endless shifts, sacrificed her youth, endured extreme financial hardship, and paid every single bill to nurture, feed, clothe, and raise Kiersnick from an innocent toddler into the international rap titan that redefined the sound of modern trap music. She made it crystal clear that once Takeoff achieved global fame, he didn't forget who stood by him in the trenches. He bought his mom a massive luxury mansion, covered all her living expenses, gifted her high-end cars, and made sure she lived like absolute royalty so she would never have to worry about survival again. So where in the world was the father, Kenneth Ball, during those long, brutal years of grinding before the multi-million-dollar record deals, the private jets, and the diamond chains? According to Titania's legal team and family insiders, Kenneth Ball provided practically zero financial support, zero emotional presence, and zero actual fatherhood throughout Takeoff's entire childhood and adolescence. He was, for all practical purposes, a phantom. But the absolute second that $30 million estate valuation hit the headlines, accompanied by a massive, highly confidential multi-million-dollar wrongful death settlement from the Houston venue, suddenly Kenneth Ball emerged from the shadows with a whole team of high-powered, bloodthirsty probate attorneys, demanding his legal, court-mandated equal 50% share of his late son's life work. If you aren't completely shocked by the sheer, shameless audacity of human greed at this point, then hang on tight, because the story gets infinitely more ridiculous. What makes this whole battle an absolute masterpiece of satirical dark comedy is the legal tactic Kenneth Ball's team is deploying. Rather than quietly admitting he wasn't around and working out a modest out-of-court agreement, Kenneth is flexing every loophole in the book. He is fighting tooth and nail over jurisdictional territory, attempting to drag the legal fight into Texas state courts where the civil wrongful death settlement originated. Why? Because Texas and Georgia have completely different judicial flavors when it comes to evaluating deadbeat parents. In Georgia probate courts right in Fulton County, where Takeoff built his legacy, judges have historically shown zero tolerance for long-lost parents trying to cash in on children they abandoned. Georgia judges will look a parent dead in the eye and demand receipts, school signatures, child support payment records, and proof of affection before hand-delivering a $15 million check. Kenneth Ball knows this, which is why his legal team is pulling out every procedural delay, venue motion, and jurisdictional argument imaginable to keep the money pipeline frozen in Texas. Meanwhile, let's take a look at how Titania Davenport is living and holding down the fort amidst this absolute circus. Despite the internet rumors claiming she is wildly squandering the estate on ridiculous flexes, the truth is that Titania is living in the very same high-end suburban Atlanta sanctuary that her son personally handed her the keys to while he was alive, but living in a multi-million-dollar mansion while surrounded by a swarm of lawyers, court auditors. And Vultures isn't the glamour people think it is. Every single invoice, property tax bill, grass cutting charge, and maintenance cost associated with Takeoff's assets has to pass through strict probate court supervision, while the father's lawsuit hangs over her head like a dark cloud. Imagine sitting in a sprawling estate built by your son's love, only to receive monthly court summonses from a man who barely bought him a pair of shoes growing up, demanding half of the house, half of the bank accounts, and half of the future publishing checks. It is the ultimate real-world nightmare, proving that no amount of wealth can shield you from family dysfunction once the primary provider is gone. Stick around, because this is where the plot thickens into an absolute corporate thriller. We aren't just talking about a static pile of green paper sitting in a Chase bank account. A dead artist of Takeoff's magnitude isn't just a former musician. He is an active, endlessly generating commercial brand. We are talking about master recording rights, publishing catalogs, unreleased studio vocals sitting in secure hard drives, merchandise lines, and streaming royalties from timeless classics like Bad and Bougie, Walk It Talk It, and Motorsport. Every time someone in Tokyo, London, or Atlanta streams a Migos track, a fraction of a cent drops into the estate. Over the course of a decade, those fractions add up to millions upon millions of continuous revenue. Control over the estate doesn't just mean getting a one-time lump sum payout. It means having the executive power to authorize posthumous albums, license songs for multi-million-dollar Super Bowl commercials, sell feature verses to upcoming artists, and dictate how Takeoff's image and likeness are used until the sun burns out. If Kenneth Ball manages to secure a 50% legal stake or administrative co-control, he wouldn't just walk away with $15 million in liquid cash. He would hold an absolute veto power over Takeoff's artistic legacy. Imagine a scenario where a father who didn't even know his son's favorite studio setup suddenly has the legal right to reject a posthumous Migos tribute track, block a documentary deal, or sell off Takeoff's unreleased vocal stems to the highest corporate bidder just to squeeze out a quick payout. That is the true heart of why Titania Davenport is fighting with every breath in her body. It isn't just about the physical cash sitting in a vault. It is about keeping her son's life work from being monetized, butchered, and liquidated by someone who treated his upbringing like an optional hobby. To put this whole unbelievable disaster into perspective, you have to realize that hip-hop history is littered with the tragic remnants of iconic artists who made the fatal mistake of assuming they had endless time to organize their business. From Tupac Shakur to Prince, and from Jimi Hendrix to Pop Smoke. The pattern is painfully identical. Young, incredibly gifted black creators grind from absolute poverty, elevate their families, construct massive commercial empires out of thin air through pure artistic genius, and then get taken away in their prime before they ever sign a simple 2-page estate trust document. The moment the genius passes, the legal sharks, distant relatives, corporate executives, and estranged parents swim in from miles away to tear the carcass apart piece by piece. In Takeoff's case, the irony is so thick you could cut it with a diamond-encrusted chain. Kiersnick was universally known as the most low-key, peaceful, stay-out-of-the-way figure in the entire rap industry. He didn't do internet rants, he didn't start beefs. He didn't chase messy headlines, and he certainly didn't live a flashy, chaotic lifestyle off the stage. He went to the studio, laid down unbelievable flows, stacked his money, took care of his mom, and went home. Yet in death, his name is attached to one of the messiest, most sensationalized public estate wars in Georgia legal history. His memory is being dragged through depositions, financial audits, paternity checks, and jurisdictional motions because standard state law treats a multi-million-dollar musical genius the exact same way it treats someone with $50 in a savings account. Let's talk about the paternity twist that had the entire internet gasping for air. Early in the legal proceedings, when Kenneth Ball first came out of nowhere demanding his half of the pie, Titania's legal team actually challenged his biological standing, demanding concrete legal proof and court-ordered documentation that he was even the legitimate father in the first place. Think about the absolute level of disrespect and absurdity taking place in that courtroom. You have a man who claims to be the proud father of an iconic rap superstar, but when asked by a judge to prove his lifetime involvement, support, or even basic legal documentation, the entire courtroom goes dead silent. The father had to scramble to assemble legal filings just to validate his paternal connection, all while claiming he is rightfully entitled to step into a $30 million fortune built entirely without his help. And what about the rest of the family and the hip-hop community looking on? Quavo and Offset, who spent their entire youth in the same household with Takeoff under Titania's roof, have had to sit back and watch this gut-wrenching spectacle unfold while attempting to honor their brother's memory. Remember, Migos wasn't just a manufactured rap group put together by a record label executive in a boardroom. They were literally family. They grew up together in the same modest home, ate at the same table, shared dreams, and built an empire from the ground up as a family unit. To watch an outside figure who was entirely absent during those formative, broke years now stand in court demanding equal ownership of the house that Migos built is a pill so bitter it could poison a whole room. As we sit here watching this multi-million-dollar court case drag on through month after month of continuous motions, delays, and hidden settlements, the ultimate takeaway from this whole wild, tragic story is crystal clear. Money doesn't change who people are, it just magnifies their true motives by a factor of 10,000. A mother who loved and sacrificed for her son when he had nothing will spend every last dollar she has to protect his memory. And a parent who wasn't there when the bills were due will hire the biggest legal firm in the state to make sure they are front and center when the payout arrives. The battle over Takeoff's $30 million legacy is far from over. As Georgia probate judges review the mountains of evidence, financial histories, and abandonment claims, one thing remains absolute. Kiersnick Khari Ball's musical legacy belongs to the millions of fans who adored his talent and the loving mother who actually raised him. But until the final gavel comes down and the legal papers are permanently stamped, this high-stakes family drama will continue to serve as the ultimate cautionary tale for every rising star in the world. Protect your legacy, write your will, lock in your trusts, and never let the vultures dictate how your story ends.